Okay, the Cuyahoga County Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, November 26, 2013, to deal with the proposed 2014 to 15 biennial budget will please come to order, and the clerk will call the roll.
Calling the roll, Mr. Germana.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Schron.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent at the moment. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers is absent at the moment. Ms. Simon. I'm here. Mr. Greenspan is absent today. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Brady.
Here.
Ms. Conley. Here. You have a quorum.
I'd like to make a motion to mark Mr. Greenspan's absent as excused.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to excuse the absence of Councilman Greenspan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. The ayes have it, and it is approved, and Council members Rogers and Conwell are expected to join us shortly. I would ask the clerk if there is anybody who has signed in for public comment.
Mr. Chairman, no one has signed in to speak.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have one matter referred to the committee. It's Resolution 2013-0229. Ms. Jean.
Resolution number 2013-0229, a resolution adopting the 2014-2015 biennial operating budget and capital improvements program and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Okay, that measure is now before us, and for the purposes of discussion, I would like to make a motion for a package of amendments, the package that has been distributed, sponsored by Council President Conley and me. I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. With the help of my colleagues, this amendment is our best shot at packaging the most important concerns expressed by all of us at the last meeting and during intervening discussions without spending too much money. The total additions amount to a general fund impact of $3.2 million in 2014 and $3.5 million in 2015. These additions would leave us with a projected excess of expenditures over revenue by about $2 million each year, which I believe is manageable, but I wouldn't want to go much beyond that. The proposed additional items are the following. One, the Human Resources Commission pay equity consultant, $50,000 one time in 2014. It's a small dollar amount, but a major commitment to a long-term process for rational correction of pay equity issues in county employment. Two, Human Resources RTA subsidy provides assistance to county employees for public transportation, which will be especially important when we move to our new headquarters, and this item has been led by Council President Conley. Item three is Consumer Affairs provides 3 positions to properly staff the newly created division following on the legislation sponsored by Councilman Brady. Item number 4, Common Pleas, assigned counsel. This is the largest item at $2.5 million per year with $1.5 million per year general fund impact. The numbers for 2014 are slightly lower to factor in lag time on startup. Assigned counsel fees are essentially the same as they were in the mid-'80s. For felony 3s and 4s, which are most of the cases, we're paying half or less than what similar counties are paying. This proposal is half of what the Common Pleas Court requested. With so many competing needs out there, I don't think we can correct a 30-year problem in a single shot, but this is a very good start. Number 5, domestic relations. Funds key staff positions requested and routine PC replacement. Their professional development requests also have merit, but it was felt that money could be found within the budget for these relatively small other items. Probate court funds 2 of the 3 additional deputy clerks requested. Number 7, public defender funds the administrator position. Councilman Greenspan suggested an internal audit be done before filling the position to make best use of the new person's capabilities. That suggestion should be seriously considered by the Defender's Office. Number 8, juvenile court unruly program. This is a community diversion program which saves money by keeping youth out of the system. The court has been scraping by on funding for the program provided 5 years ago, but at this point it needs continuation funding. And finally, the scholarship program provides ongoing line item funding for the council-initiated scholarship programs. Currently, we have 2, the program in workforce development and the College Now program. The mix of programs is expected to evolve and grow over time. I hope that this package meets my colleagues' support. If anyone is not satisfied with the package as is, in just a moment I'm going to offer an opportunity for anyone to offer any proposals to change this package, and we will discuss them as amendments. Before opening the floor for proposed amendments, I'm going to ask Director Rubino to come forward and to brief us on the administration's response to the amendment package.
Which we got 5 minutes ago.
And I would note that Councilman Rogers has joined the meeting.
And Mr. Chair, I'd just like to point out that we just literally got these changes from the administration within the last 10, 15 minutes. I just wanted to point out that these changes that Mr. Rubino is going to talk about, we just got within the last 15 minutes.
I did provide them to
Literally.
Trevor, though, around 1 o'clock. So
I'm
just
telling
by
you what I
clarification.
got 15 minutes ago, Mr. Rubino.
Well, I understand that, but that's when they were conveyed to council.
Whether it's 15 minutes or a couple of hours, the response has come in very recently, and we definitely want the director to go through it and explain the administration's response and the reasons for it.
Yeah, would you like me to go through these line by line, Councilman Miller?
Council members, you should have this in your packet. It's at the bottom of the packet. I was unsure as to when this would come into play.
Line by line, then? Is that? Okay. We provided responses to the amendments Councilman Miller provided us a few days ago. So just going down, the pay equity, there's a recommendation to support that one-time funding of $50,000. For the RTA subsidy increase, the administration had offered a reduced amount, $150 each year, and also to offer to look for alternative sources of funding in lieu of general fund dollars. Don't have any ideas readily available, but there may be some other options for providing that subsidy as an alternate to general fund funding. So something to keep in mind as you consider these. Consumer affairs staffing, there's support of doing the hires for consumer affairs. Comment please assign council, we're showing that general fund portion. The administration has offered $500,000 in year 1 and $1 million in the second year of the biennium for that item. And then for the positions in requests for both domestic and relations and probate, we have those as being supported by the administration with consideration given to possibly seeing if the Court of Common Pleas General Division would be willing to realign appropriation between budgets. That would require permanent realignment, so we would understand if that's something they're not willing to entertain. But I know that option or that idea has been talked about in the past, not on a formal basis, but in conversations we have discussed that possibility. But that's something we wanted to at least show on the response to the amendments. And then for public defender, right now there is administration does not support providing funding for the position of administrator. The executive expressed to us in a meeting that he would like to see some of the compliance issues with the Public Defender Commission addressed beforehand in regards to this request for the administrator hire. For juvenile court, court unruly, at the current point, the administration does not support the additional funding. We still believe that the funding for the court unruly program is in the base budget and has been since the past biennium. I understand the court disagrees with that recommendation, but that's the current position of the administration. And then the scholarship programs, administration supports the $1 million per year in the operating budget for council scholarships. And then what we provided you in the summary is a comparison of the amendments proposed by council and the administration, responses and recommendations. And we also give you a comparative basis summary of the current net result. And I see one mistake that in the 2014 administration, it should be 1.23 million, not 1.4 million. And the operating results, and then the unrestricted fund balance between the two sets of recommendations. We did get, this is more of an update, we got a November sales tax number, higher than we expected. We expected around 3.5%. It came in at over 4.5%. We're going to update the 2013 sales tax estimate because we only have 1 month left. What that means is because the 14 and 15 are anchored to the 2013 estimate, we're going to push the 14 and 15 estimates up a little bit. And this is not, we're not incorporating any increase based on what we know about the Medicaid expansion. This is solely non-Medicaid related growth at this point. So we will do an increase in 13, which again will push 14, 15 up because the numbers are tied to each other.
You have a higher base to work with in that calculation.
Correct, and which is good news. And every month we're looking at the numbers, and it doesn't appear there's any one-time things that made the number jump in comparison to last year. Just a higher number. That's a good thing. So we're going to carry that trend into the 14, 15 estimates.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Can you say any more about what the nature is of the compliance issues that are unresolved regarding the public defender's
I
office?
personally have been involved in the justice reform meetings. I think there are others that probably would speak more eloquently on that manner than I would. But I know that was one of the concerns voiced to us in our last meeting on the budget.
Okay. I would point out that since we have just received this information, if council members are prepared to offer any amendments based on the administration concerns today, they can certainly do so. But if that does not occur, there could be some further discussion between us and the administration between now and next week. So I'm not saying that what happens today is necessarily our final answer.
Understood.
Just want to make that clear. So at this point, I would open the floor to anyone who has any comments, or particularly if anyone has any issues that they would like to have considered as a possible amendment to the package of changes that's before us. I would open up the floor to that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's very important that we continue in this process because we have to, solidify these numbers. Mr. Gallagher and I have a nonpartisan coalition here on two items that I'd like to propose. $132,000 for the Human Resource Commission to implement civil service testing. And one of the concerns about the county is always this issue of employment and how people get jobs. And this would be implementing the request of the Human Resource Commission, where they would hire a civil service testing commissioner. So every job would be going according to civil service. So if you need a secretary, the person who's at the top of the list gets the job. It's clear, everybody takes the same test, and it's fair and impartial. This is certainly a reform that goes back or these civil service exams go back to the progressive movement where people ask for the standardized testing for jobs. And then also, I'd like to propose the $450,000 for funding for the 17 employees for the prosecutor's office. These people were on unpaid leave, and the administration just cut that money out of the budget. So I think that we should restore that funding. So those are two of the items that I'd like to propose.
Okay, I'd like to consider them one at a time. Would you like to make a motion on the Human Resources
All right,
Commission?
so moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I would just share that I don't feel strongly about this amendment, but the reason why I did not consider it was that I sensed and actually got confirmation from the Human Resources Commission itself that that the department and the commission aren't on the same page on this, and I thought we might do well to hold this in abeyance. And
I didn't understand who you said weren't on the same page.
the commission, the Human Resources Commission, and the Human Resources Department,
Oh, okay.
and that they're not on the same page on this, and I thought we might want to take some time to work through that. But if people feel ready to move forward, we can certainly do that.
The Chair, I just want to say that the charter sets up the Human Resource Commission as a separate body to handle these matters, and they've asked to implement this, and I think that that's what this government was about. You know, this whole importance of the Human Resource Commission. So I think that's an important, and they're asking for it.
Is there any other comment on this item?
Mr. Chair? Who's not in agreement? I'm not really clear.
The
Administration.
the Human Resources Department and by extension, the executive is not on the same page with the commission on going forward on this amendment.
I probably would want to find out what the issues are relating to this. And secondly, would this be an annual budgetary item? Or is it only going to take 2 years to get them where they need to be with the civil service? Is this ongoing? Or is it is it going to be every year they have to have this amount of money to implement a civil service exam?
Well,
My
Trevor,
questions.
Trevor can ask that.
Mr. Chair, it is an annual dollar amount. It's to hire a civil service administrator and then the cost of a couple tests per year. That was at the request of the Human Resources Commission.
okay, so this would be an ongoing program for the Human Resources Commission.
Employee, they would have to hire somebody
Yes,
to
that's correct.
oversee and implement 2 tests a year?
2 to 4, I believe,
2
is
to
what she
4.
put in her budget proposal.
Okay, well, I probably just want more information on this.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I did talk to HR and the HRC, and I think as a chartered government, we have to follow the charter. And one of our struggles, I think, is to stop the inequity in pay out to the employees countywide. And how do you do that? It's a big job, and I don't think really that we should be the ones that are dictating that as we struggle through this budget and have come to the conclusion that, and most likely at least 214, there's not going to be any money for pay raises across the board as we, I think, would like to do. I know I would like to do, but we have to follow the charter, which tasks the HRC with responsibility for administering an efficient and economic system for the employment of persons in the public service of the county. And that's according to merit and fitness. And I think this helps get us on our way there. It allows, I think, the HRC and HR, who may not be on the same page, but I get the feeling that they could be on the same page if they're both given the tools to do what they've asked to receive in this budget, which is why I'm in favor of both HR and the HRC getting those tools necessary to move us following the charter and moving employees across the board on merit and fitness and helping us to get to the place we'd like to get to. I would support this. I think any time that we do have knocking of heads, so to speak, within the budget, that we should follow to the charter. And I think the charter is very clear as far as what they expect from us to allow benefits to employees that are above and beyond maybe some of those that they work with. I think both of these are important. I think both of these should go forward, and I think both of these fall to what the charter has said.
Director Rubino, can you provide us any further information as to why the administration did not include this item in the original budget?
For the human resources piece or the HRC piece?
We're talking about the $132,000 per year for the implementation of civil service testing.
I'd have to check with either the human resources director or someone else and get back to you on that, because I don't have any additional information I can provide right now.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I've done budgets before, and this is quite unlike anything that I've ever been part of. And I'm not saying that it's wrong, but the administration gave us a budget.
Yes.
It's in our hands to do with that budget as we see fit and what we feel is the best in the interest of those that we represent within our districts. I think it's odd that the administration comes back, and I know there's been negotiations, in changing actually their point of view in some instances on where they're at in this budget.
Yes.
And I can appreciate that. But I don't think it's helpful at this point for the administration to be throwing a wrench in the works of our discussions going forward on the issues that have been put before us initially by the administration. So I would like to move forward on the work in front of us, which could be substantial, and then let the administration come back to us. You're coming back to us with changes and don't know why they're changed. So it leads to me, is this arbitrary? Is there something behind it? And if they're not arbitrary and there is something behind it, why weren't they there in the beginning? So why don't I would suggest we wait to deal with the concerns of the administration. Our concerns haven't even been heard yet. That's what
Understood.
I think we should do.
And I apologize for not having that answer, but
No, it's
I'm
not,
running out
and
of
it's not you. It's
space
just
in my
odd that would
brain.
happen. I can understand if we change the budget and we come to a conclusion
Yes.
as to where we want to be, and then the administration says, well, I'd like to change it. Well, other than veto, there's really, and negotiations, and I'm not discounting negotiations, but we should have a chance to submit what we think is a clean budget, and then at that point, the administration should come forward, not giving us their changes to what our thoughts might be before we even get there.
Okay.
And you can't even explain the changes of the administration. So the administration really needs to be here to do that, and we certainly want to hear that. But we got work to get through, and I think it's odd that we're going to put something off to hear from the administration later on. It's just, it doesn't flow.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of time here. And I don't think we're very far off on many of these things.
Sure.
But it would be helpful to move forward from our side, I think. That would be my suggestion.
Chairman?
Uh,
No, sorry.
Can you see if you can get the Director Hara here?
At this meeting?
Yes.
I don't even know how to reach her at this point. I can,
Well, this isn't Director Hara. This is the administration.
Our liaison should be help us.
This is just odd. And this is just, I mean, I get, we'll have a time to bring these people back, but there's no need to be calling them. I want us to get through our work, and then let's submit, and then let's see where we're at.
Mr. Chairman?
If somebody doesn't have a compelling reason to change what we're doing, I mean, I've done my homework here. I met with HR. I met with Ms. Hara. I heard her out. I met with the HRC. I heard them out. I get it. I know what they want to do. And I think they both bear fruit.
Mr. Chair, can we have discussion on this and call the question? I mean, I think we need to move forward. We're going to be here. We've spent a half an hour on one item. If there's any other discussion, let's call the question.
Okay, we have Councilman Schron.
The only comment I would have is if the administration is so adamant against this as it might turn out, we don't know one way or the other, they can certainly exercise the line item veto of taking it out of the program and then puts it back into our court as to whether or not we would decide to do something with that at that point in time. So, I mean, that's the way the process is supposed to work, and so if Mr. Gallagher's done his homework and we put it forth and the administration doesn't believe it's an appropriate place to put it in, then that would be their right to take that out through a line item veto.
Councilman Germana.
Mr. Chairman, I think implementation of civil service testing makes sense. I'm for that, and for that reason, I support this amendment.
Okay, well, what we're going to do is, as I said, with regard to the administration position on things, today is not necessarily the final, and things can be reviewed next week. So I'm going to bring this amendment to a vote, and if the amendment passes, if the administration has serious concerns about it, we're going to ask them to bring their concerns to us in the next few days, and we'll consider them before we make a final decision next week. So the motion has been moved and seconded to incorporate $132,000 per year for the implementation of civil service testing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. The ayes have it. It's so incorporated. Ms. Conley.
I just reiterate the 17 employees for the prosecutor's office. This matter was taken out of the budget. These people were on unpaid leave, and it looked like they weren't working, but it was because they were on unpaid leave. Now we just want to restore that same funding. So it's not an increase, it's just a continuation of the same funding they had all the time. And I make that in the form of a motion. I thought I moved both of these, but
Okay.
in form of a motion.
Comment from the director.
Just briefly, we didn't, during development phase of the budget, we talked about the three main phases of budget development. When we developed the initial base, the appropriation for the 17 we're speaking of was not removed from the budget. Remember, we talked about budget parameters. We looked at current pay plus vacancies we knew about, and also looking at historic trends of how, especially the larger agencies within the county, whether they're executive or elected officials, what is their ongoing historic vacancy rate. So it's not that we looked at a line-by-line roster of employees and removed appropriation. This is just a clarification. But we did talk about this. When we do base development, we're looking at historic trends and what the current payroll looks like. And also we're looking at our projection for 2014, sorry. And that's how we're coming up with the amount. We do not remove items for specific staff unless there is a request or recommendation to do so. So that's a clarifying point that I wanted to make, but again, it's council's decision on how they want to treat this request for funding.
Okay, thank you. My opinion is the same as the director's. The prosecutor's office has a $25 million plus payroll, and I think that they have sufficient capacity to employ these individuals within their current budget allocation. Other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Gallagher, and then Simon, and then Rogers.
what do you base your comment on?
I base my comment on that the total payroll for the prosecutor's office is over 25 million, and that this is a small percentage in compared to the total, and also that historically the prosecutor's office has typically had a fair number of vacancies, and they're highly professional positions that cannot be filled immediately, so there's going to be gaps where positions are unfilled, and I think that they have capacity to handle it.
I think this is a fact-based request in that the 17 employees were on unpaid leave, and now they need that payroll to pay them on that, to go back on that payroll instead of taking out of their general fund. What you're saying is you think within the prosecutor's budget, they have available dollars equal to or more than $500,000?
I do.
And where is that?
My expectation is that as the director suggests in an agency this large with a $25 million annual personnel line item, that over the course of the year there are going to be vacancies, there are going to be unfilled for significant lengths of time, and that's going to provide, in my opinion, more than enough money to cover the additional positions.
Following that thought, Madam President, if you wouldn't mind, I think that we should move forward on this amount with a rider that states that we will watch the FTEs in the prosecutor's office, and that number of FTEs is equal to and not more than the actual budget dollars needed to pay those people. So we don't have this situation where there are excess dollars. At that point in time, I would then imagine that as the prosecutor's office would either expand or contract, they would have to come back to this council for the monies if they're going to go over what the FTEs are that they have now. This would bring them to full-fledged 100%, I believe. Is somebody from the prosecutor's office?
Yeah, she's here.
Jane Platten's here.
Ms. Platten, does the 17 employees bring you to a full contingent?
Yes, it does now. It would for now. Here's the situation. We had 25 positions that were essentially not funded, and of those 25 positions, 17 employees were on leave. Another 8 vacancies were existing in that 25. There's 16 out of the 17 that came back from leave. One gentleman is still on military leave. So we're actually only asking you to fill the 17, and we're not asking for the additional 8 vacancies. That will be part of an in and out. We're already absorbing the loss of dollars through in and out vacancies. So I respectfully request that the 17 positions be covered, because we already have that pool of vacancies existing where the in and out of dollars will be covered based on not filling, and the expansion and contraction based on the vacancies.
The trouble I think we get into, and I do think it's trouble, is when we have personnel dollars that are available, and at the end of the year, it's either a give back, or in some instances, those monies are moved on as raises. We're trying to clasp down on that, because it's just not fair and equitable across the board to all the employees. We all know it, but it happens. So we're trying to avoid that in the future. With the 17, is it any way difficult for you to report to this council that your full-time FTEs is X amount of dollars with X amount of money at the 6-month period and then the 12-month period of at least this year, to make sure we don't have too many excess dollars sitting in the middle of nowhere in your budget? And if you could answer that, and then is there $500,000 sitting in the middle of your budget in personnel not going anywhere?
Number one, the answer is yes. Number two, there is not an additional $500 sitting there to cover these 17 employees. My worry is going into 2014, knowing I have 17 employees that we don't have funding for. We have vacancies. We will always, as we've discussed multiple times, have vacancies. We probably have 11, 13 vacancies right now, and we're filling those much more quickly than we had in this past year, because we had so many people leave, as I explained earlier, because of the administrative change, PERS and all that. I know that I have 17 employees going into 2014 that I don't have payroll money for right now.
So you will have, at 17 employees, you'll be 100% staffed with $0 available in your personnel budget.
Correct.
So it's a necessity that the 17 employees move forward with these dollars, so you don't have $500,000 sitting around, because you can't take computer money, put it in personnel without our authority. I know a lot of people think they can, but they can't.
No, and we didn't do that this year. I didn't do that when I was at the Board of Elections. I will respect the rules by which we have to live within relative to the budgets. And we actually came to you asking for permission to spend existing money this year on the sexual assault case initiative and such. I won't spend the money that's earmarked for personnel on anything else unless I have explicit permission to do so.
Well, as we've been told by our internal auditor, not only is it the authority within this council, but it's state law. It's not legal to move money from one section that's not personnel into personnel without the authority of this council to do so. So I'm asking this council to move forward now that we have a fact-based answer to the question of whether or not there are available dollars within your budget for these 17 employees, with the understanding that if you're going to lose F-time FTEs or you're going to be putting more on, you're going to obviously have to come to us for those dollars. But at a 6-month interval, I think it would be important that at least you report to us through OBM that that's what's happening within your budget. And if this need be to expand, you'd have to come to us. So I think we have now an answer to the question of the full amount that the council president and myself are asking that we move forward under the 14-15 budget.
Councilwoman Simon.
I disagree with what was just stated. Every year, there's been a carryover from the prosecutor's office to the tune of about $1 million that was available to pay for personnel. I heard on the one hand that this will enable the prosecutor's office to become fully staffed. On the other hand, I'm hearing that there's floating vacancies. So I'm not sure, how to reconcile those two things. And in terms of funding this, I'm not in favor of funding these 17. I would, at this point.
Mr. Chairman?
We have Ms. Simon, Rogers,
Okay.
and Schron, and then we'll come back.
Well, to Mr. Simon's point, and I think it's
Wait,
important.
let's not get in, let's
Well,
give
I'm
every.
being told I'm being lied to in a public meeting. I think it's relevant.
We have some order. Mr. Gallagher continues to want to be controversial and, pick fights with people. I didn't call anybody a liar.
Okay. Councilman Rogers, then Schron.
So to be clear, when the base budget was formed, the 17 employees were not included in that base budget because they were on leave at the time.
That's correct.
And if these are not funded, that essentially will mean that your, I guess your surplus of vacancies will be reduced by at least 17. Does that make sense? So you say it's the natural course of business that you will have vacancies within your department.
Yes, those vacancies are separate and apart from the 17 people who are working today. So it wouldn't increase the vacancy number. Those would just be unfunded positions that are currently occupied.
Yeah, but you'd have to, you're not going to lay those people off, so you're going to find, or are you, what would be the plan?
That would be something that we would have to discuss with Prosecutor McGinty, but, if we hired before the, end of the year, the 10 vacant positions, we would have 17 people that we wouldn't have the budget for, and I'd have to go to Prosecutor McGinty and you and discuss that situation.
Right. It just, Mr. Chairman, it just seems to me that these are 17 people that we know are there, 17 people that are going to be there, hopefully, 17 people that are needed, and I'm not sure why we wouldn't, and it seems like it was, well, I can't speak to how they were actually included or excluded from the budget, but it seems that had they not been on leave at that time, that they would be included in the budget. And I'm not sure why we would knowingly have 17 people that we know we want them to receive their paycheck, why we wouldn't just fund this now instead of having to potentially deal with it in the future.
Councilman Tron.
I guess the underlying assumption is that the 17 people are needed on the books, but I also was under the impression that when we were in here with a controversy back in September, August, of looking at did a particular item go on the ballot, and there was an 11th hour agreement that was put forth between the law director and the prosecutor's office with the expectation that work was going to move from the prosecutor's office to the law director's office, that fully staffed would not mean fully staffed as it had been in the past. And so I guess I was, speaking for this council person, I was clearly under the impression that as we moved those civil items that had historically been delivered by part of that, I assume some of those numbers and some of those full-time equivalents, that they were going to see the definition of fully staffed, which would include these 17, would have seen some reduction as we move forward, because your budget was built on the assumption, I thought, that there was going to be some movement, but yet we didn't see that in a fully staffed prosecutor's office. So Mike, I'm just asking what the status is as to whether or not work has moved, and if it has moved, and that usually means personnel should have then followed.
The effect that the memorandum of understanding had is not, we are not feeling the effect yet. And part of the reason is because although there's a division of responsibilities now, the cases that the prosecutor's office were working on that would, based on the memorandum of understanding now being a law director's world, we didn't transfer those over. That was a decision that the current law director, Majid, he agreed with, and in fact didn't ask to take those cases over. So we are still working with the same level of caseload that we had when the memorandum of understanding was signed. I think going forward, you will see some fluctuation in our caseload as we pass cases back and forth now. We have on those cases more of a partnership with them as opposed to us just handing them over. And I will say also that the 8 vacancies that we're not asking you to fund that was in the 25 positions that were removed from the base budget, of those 8 vacancies, 2 of them were civil APAs. So those won't be filled because we don't have the funding for those, because remember there was 17 employees that were there on leave, and there was 8 other positions that they removed from the budget that were vacant. So we're not asking for those vacant positions. It's $518,000 we're not asking you for, and 2 of those were civil APAs.
Okay, so you're saying that the savings that will accrue as a result of somebody else picking up what historically had been work done in the prosecutor's office is where we're going to see that in that $500,000 for those 8 employees?
You'll see the 2 APAs coming out of that, yes.
And is there any place else where, because we're looking at a 2-year budget here. In that 2 years, this transitional activity is still going to be continuing on 2 years down?
To be honest with you, I don't
Which
know.
I'll be disappointed, to be honest.
I don't know
if
what
it takes us 2.5 years. Otherwise, I would have voted differently, perhaps on a certain item to go on the ballot. But
I don't know what the effect is going to be on the caseload at this point. We're monitoring it to see what is going their way, what's going our way. We're still in discussions on some of the representation. We are meeting with the law director and his staff once every 2 weeks, so that we're trying to get a feel for what direction it's going in and what impact it will have. But at this point, our caseload did not go down.
are you forecasting moving it over? Let's go that way then. Obviously, transition is always a challenge, but we're also looking at 2 years. We're packaging this together. Are you forecasting you're going to be moving that caseload over to the prosecutor or to the law director's offices?
Not the entirety of the caseload, probably maybe 40% of the workload, and then there will be some that comes back to us. I can get you a more concise answer.
I just wanted to relate to headcount, full-time equivalent.
Sure.
Percentages are not as relevant as is what we're funding on the budget and where it goes, and does it get picked up on another department, or are both sides going to ask for increased full-time equivalents when all is said and done?
We're not asking for full-time, an increase in full-time people for the civil division at all. And again, there's 2 APAs that we will not fill within that division.
Councilman Jimana. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Councilman Gallagher.
When you testified earlier, were you telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So some people on this committee, or at least one, could understand that sometimes when you don't tell the truth, others call it a lie. So did you tell the truth about your 17 employees?
I did.
See, the thing is I'm kind of independent. I don't care if the prosecutor or the public defender or the courts or anybody gets money. I want to give everybody money. I don't make my livelihood in the courts. I don't win or lose if you don't get money. I don't win or lose, the public defender gets money. It doesn't matter. I wish everybody could get everything they want. But when there's a question, as far as funding goes, and this is my job, and I take it seriously, and I just don't say no. I want to know what the facts are. So when I provided with truthful testimony that backs up when I'm asking, because I got to go home to constituents that don't understand why anybody's getting anything. So when I'm asking you a question and you factually tell me the correct answer that backs up my request, you're helping me do my job, as everyone else will. So it's important that we get this on the table. So just to say no, I wouldn't be doing my job. I got to get answers to the questions of these dollars. It's important. So I don't have any standing with anybody here other than to answer to my constituents as far as the dollars that go out of this county and throughout this county. Have you brought back $1 million last year from your previous budget?
I wasn't in the prosecutor's office last year.
Or this to 13? Are you bringing anything?
There is $800,000 in surplus as a result of the last 2-year period not filling vacancies, and most of those dollars was in benefits. And
So you're bringing those dollars back to us, requesting the use of these 17 for those dollars, rather than just doing it.
Yes, and part of the reason that those dollars exist also is because Prosecutor McGinty started in October of 2012 and didn't fill any vacancies until after March 25th of 2013. So from there then, I just want to be clear that we did fill a significant number of vacancies then, but that money was surplus as a result of over 6 months of not filling positions. And, you know, we had a vacancy rate last year there was a significant number of people that left the office.
Well, you have you have a very transient office, actually. I mean, considering what goes on there. I mean, we understand that. And we have that in HHS. So I thank you for your honest and truthful testimony that backs up my request for employees to be paid with the money that is being asked for.
Okay, we're going to go to Councilman Jimana, and hopefully then I'd like to call the roll. Councilman Jimana.
Mr. Chairman, no one's got a crystal ball for sure. And we could see, this is math. We know why we have this number 17. And you know what, if we have the vacancy, the money will come back. So I think it's reasonable to go ahead and plan for it, because it'd be a great thing if we didn't have vacancies.
Okay, seeing no other requests, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll on the amendment, and the amendment is to increase the funding for the prosecutor's office by $450,498 in both 2014 and 2015, which would provide explicit funding for the 17 employees that were on unpaid leave at one point earlier last year. Please call the roll.
Calling the roll,
And-
Mr. Germana,
And yes is for the amendment.
Yes?
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Mr. Schron,
Yes.
Ms. Conwell,
Yes.
Mr. Jones? Mr. Rogers? Ms. Simon? Mr. Miller?
No.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
And Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Amendments approved and will be incorporated into the amendment package.
Thank you very much.
Does anyone else have items that they would like to have considered? Councilman Gallagher.
You have a copy of my requests. I would withdraw number 1. I had not the scheduler involved in that. I agreed with you and Council President Conley on that, so I'll withdraw that. The scholarship program, which you also have, you have set at $1 million. I just thought it important we stay on the mark, and the mark is $888,000. Not a big difference, $120,000 per year, but I think the actual dollar is what we should be after, as opposed to, throwing a dart in the future and having it at $1 million. I would leave that to the rest of council, whether or not they wanted to go with the million or the actual number, which is $880,000.
Councilman, are you making a motion to change it to 880?
I would, with the understanding, I respect the majority on the million, if that's what it is. But I think the actual dollar amounts which should move forward.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to change the allocation for the scholarship program from $1 million per year to $880,000. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Rogers.
Yeah, I appreciate the understanding that that's where we are now with the scholarship program. I do want to say that particularly with the College Now, as a result of what we did this past year for scholarships for high school students, there's been a lot more awareness of the program. We had set specific criteria on the types of students that we would fund. That number was 63 this year. I would imagine that after a year of publicizing the success of the program and bringing more awareness, that number will more than likely go up beyond that number of 63. So I'm in favor of maintaining it at the $1 million.
Councilman Tron.
Thank you. I think that Mr. Gallagher summarized that when the testimony was before us, that was all the students applying that would have filled within that category, looking at the schools that they chose to go into it based on the criteria. And we I believe, heard the testimony in regards to this, that was the maximum amount of students, and they found all of those candidates that were applicable. And it wasn't a matter of more or less. That was all that was in the population that was eligible for this. And it's not as though more, we would have funded more had there been more students available potentially, but that was exactly the amount of students that were out there. And it seems to me to be appropriate just to refund the exact amounts of students.
Well, thank you. What happened was there was a number of students that had applied for the scholarships through College Now, and College Now had 400 students that had met all the criteria for receiving the scholarship from College Now. College Now, unfortunately, had run out of money. So the pool of candidates was a total pool of 400 that had met the requirements, but there just wasn't funding for. Out of that pool of 400, there were 63 that met the criteria of going to a college, coming from a high school in Cuyahoga County, and also looking to attend a college or university in Cuyahoga County. A year after, now that we're looking at this program, they're going to identify those students first that meet that criteria. And so I'm sure that there's they will be outside of that pool of 400. So when they're doing their initial view of the program and going out into the schools talking about it, this scholarship now has the opportunity to be offered up front instead of on the back end before they run out of money. So the pool, just by nature, it's going to be larger.
Ms. Conwell.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm inclined to keep it at the 880 for this year, but what will that, would that necessarily mean we'd have to keep it at the 880 for 2015, or could we go with the million in 2015? And then that would give the College Now time to, as Councilman Rogers stated, to get on the forefront and let any existing students know that the scholarship is available.
Mr. Chair, if I can add one thing, on the pool of 400 kids, that was at the senior class at that given point. That number could increase. We don't know what that senior class will look like next year. So just to your point about the pool increasing, that could be a larger number in 2014. So we don't have that number from College Now right now, but that's something that I'm sure they could gather for us. I don't know in time for an amendment, but
the population could also decrease as high school
could.
seniors are actually moving. I study those numbers, and they move at a ever continuing pace of up and down from school systems. Having spent time with the superintendent on Friday, was talking about the dropping of seniors classes coming up.
And Mr. Chairman, on another note, I did have some conversations with College Now, obviously, about their outreach efforts, and one of our concerns that we expressed at the council is that College Now was not in every school in the county. And so I had a conversation with Cleveland Heights not too long ago and asked them about their relationship with College Now and why they had chose to move away from that, and with their knowledge now that they have an opportunity to participate in this scholarship program, they're reconsidering their relationship with College Now. So, and I know College Now is out there talking to these schools that they were not in before to try and expand their reach. And so hopefully if those efforts are successful, we're going to be dealing with a larger pool of students simply because they're going to be in more schools than they were last year.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Gallagher.
With that knowledge, I would withdraw. We'll leave it at $1 million if everybody's comfortable with that. It's not like the money's going to be shifted anywhere else. If it's not enough, they're going to come back for more, and if it's too much, we can make sure it goes back to the general fund. So I'm comfortable without the million, without the 880.
Are those who seconded acceptable?
Moving party, yes. I'll withdraw the second.
Okay, then that amendment is withdrawn, and the allocation for the scholarship program will remain at $1 million in 2014 and 2015. Councilman Gallagher.
I have on your master amendment to the resolution, the $250,000 going to juvenile court. I have, again, doing my homework, have tried and at least on 2 personal occasions, asked for the information. I haven't gotten it. And again, my concern is personnel. And my question was directly to Karen Lippman, actually. Where did the employees go of the judge that lost the election? And I had heard those people, which would equal way more than $250,000, were brought into were given jobs in the juvenile court that weren't posted. So in essence, they were just sucked up into the court system itself. That hasn't been denied, and I've asked that question to be answered basically off the record, and I couldn't get it. So to move forward and to reward juvenile court with a $250,000 bump for the court unruly program, that while I don't doubt that it works, they can clearly handle this within their budget. If they can clearly just give employees from one judge that loses a job without posting, without qualifications, and without concern to the funds of the people of Cuyahoga County, we should not be rewarding folks that don't minimally answer our legitimate questions. That hasn't been answered, and I can tell you that's more than $250,000 that could go to this, probably working program from all indications. So I'm guessing if they don't get to 250, the individuals that got those jobs will keep them, and the program will stay the way it is. And short of an answer from juvenile court, I don't know what more I can do. I don't know how more open I can be. I needed this answer, and this has been since when we first started, and I haven't gotten that answer.
Chair, I'm a little confused. Mr. Gallagher has gone back to the items on our original document. Are you withdrawing the item 3 on your information technology point?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I just saw this, so I jumped back. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, so.
I figured you'd get rid of me in about 2 minutes anyhow.
Councilman Gallagher, are you making a motion to eliminate the additional funding for the court unruly program?
I would do that with the caveat that if a reasonable explanation for my question is received from this council by the time we adopt this budget, I would be more than happy to keep that within the juvenile court's request. But not having full disclosure is troubling.
Well, you know, I think you should get the answer to your questions. Would you be willing to hold your motion in abeyance till next week? And
sure.
And the juvenile court is put on notice that if they don't give us answers by next week, that funding is in serious risk.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to be able to speak. Are you finished?
Ms. Simon?
I would agree, though.
I have a couple comments on this. I have a responsibility to my constituents in my district, and my constituents are crying out for help with regard to juvenile activity, and I think some of my colleagues can share this. The CUP program has been a proven success. It's a necessity to enable my district and the residents to have a safer environment. So I'm not going to put that at risk because the juvenile court doesn't answer every single question that I might pose about how they handle their level of employment and their administration of justice. I'm not here to micromanage the juvenile court, how many employees they need, and that's not going to hold up the safety of my community. This CUP program is proven successful. It keeps the kids out of the juvenile justice system. It's essential for us to move forward with the money that we have to put forward on the back end. This is the front end. I can tell you that the juvenile court has had difficulty getting their child support orders in place, modifying orders. They're behind 6 months. It's because of levels of staffing and 4D money. And so if they need to hire more people to help with that, then I'm all for it. So that's my position on this, and I'm hoping Mr. Gallagher can get his questions answered, and if he doesn't, he can vote no.
Mr. Chairman, I think your request was reasonable. I'll wait for an answer to a legitimate question, and I have responsibility to my constituents and the whole of Cuyahoga County if they pay taxes. I am not going to give carte blanche to any division. I'm not going to tell anybody they can hire anybody they want at any price, and they have no ceiling as to how many people they can have on staff. I'm not going to do that because I live in the real world. Thank you. I'll withdraw that, and I finally request the informational technology, my point 3. I think we can all agree that as long as we've been here, we've seen the importance of the technology within the county, the lack of technology in the county. We do have good people on board. They're requesting $1 million for 2015. I will give an example, having done my homework yet again. Having met with the Court of Appeals with Mr. Mowry, the court had run into some problems with their computers and with some stand-up stations that they needed. And Mr. Mowry, at that point, basically forwarded them the money so they could get this done. And that has got to come from somewhere. And they were grateful for our ability to work across the lines to help them do that. I don't think this is outrageous. I think I think once we start not funding technology needs is when we start falling back. And I don't think it's an outrageous amount to request. I know the administration pulled it out, but they're asking 0 for 14 and $1 million for 15, and I think it's a well worth the work that is given to us by the technology division. I would make a motion.
Okay. I'd like to get a clarification on your motion. As the budget now stands, there's $1 million listed for 2014, but it is not in the information technologies operating budget. It is simply listed as a reserve on balance. So my question is whether you want to add an additional reserve on balance of $1 million for 2015, or do you want to actually include this in the IT's operating budget?
It wouldn't be a reserve on balance. According to Mr. Mowry, this is what he needs and will need throughout that year to do what he does on things that come up. He just feels that he had a need for $1 million in 14, $1 million in 15, and I'm going down to $1 million in 15 upon his request. And it wouldn't be on a reserve on balance.
So would you change 14 from a reserve on balance to an actual operating line item, or would you make the change only in 15?
Only 15.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and is there a second? Okay, so we have a second. And what the motion is on the floor is that it would keep the current situation that we have a reserve on balance for $1 million in 2014 for IT routine computer upgrades, and we would have an actual line item of $1 million for 2015 for that same purpose. Okay. Comments? Councilman Germana.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering why this is coming from Mr. Mowry, why this is not coming from the administration.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The administration cut it out of the budget. His requests were $1 million, and all of it was cut out.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I'd like the opportunity to speak to Mr. Mowry, because he's not here before us asking for this. I'm not sure. I'd like to see exactly.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Excuse me? We're here to do work. You've had a month to do that.
Just got your amendment, Mr. Gallagher. I'm glad you do your homework. I do mine.
Right. Did you know it was cut out of the budget initially? And did you
Talk to him
Did you
again.
pick the phone up at that time and talk to Mr. Mowry like
Sure.
I did?
Mr. Chair,
Stop being
can you please hold
controversial.
this person in order? He seems to be wanting to be contentious and take over this meeting and praise himself for doing his homework. I've heard that 6 times. All of us do our homework, Mr. Gallagher. You're not the star of this council.
Mr.
Chair,
Chairman.
please get order.
A little order, please.
Can we call the question?
Okay. Hold on. I would like to speak on behalf of the amendment. It was in my original amendment group, and I didn't include it in the final package, just not wanting to spend too much money. And Director Mowry has openly stated that what we need is $1 million to $2 million per year on a regular, ongoing basis to keep our basic computer equipment, PCs, and such things reasonably up to date. And my feeling is that in the long run, that this actually should be a regular item listed in the budget and not just a reserve on balance. And I think Councilman Gallagher actually came up with a good solution, that in 2014, it would be retained as a reserve on balances and used as needed. But then in 2015, we would move it as to a regular line item, and hopefully thereafter, it would be continue to be a regular line item. So if we can fund it, it would be good. So, Councilman Germana.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to speak to the fact that, over the time that Mr. Mowry's been here, he's saved this county millions of dollars. So, I mean, he's not in the mode of spending dollars. He's been on the mode of saving and doing things that make sense. So if he's requested it, I'm behind him 100% because we know he's already saved this county millions of dollars.
Councilman Schwan.
Yes, I think that to comment on Mr. Germana's comment that the start of an IT project is to start looking at it and then start to analyzing it, then to start doing the reduction. And it is then to start to build back in the solution piece, which is what he suggested. I was kind of surprised when the administration actually took out the IT component after the study and after the process and after it had been moving forward. So I do applaud the idea of him saying he needs to put it in. It should not have been taken out, and I'm sorry that the administration saw fit to try and remove it, and I think it needs to be built back into the budget on a regular standing basis. Because as anybody who's ever been involved with software, you can do this as simple as the home gaming systems that you see, how obsolete technology can become in just a short time. And when we came on this council, our technology was failing miserably until we had Mr. Mowry come on board. And as a result, I've got to support our technology director. He came in as one of our, truly what I can consider to be one of our shining lights. And when his light says, let's fund it, I've got to be supporting that.
Any other discussion?
I agree.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the item is included into the amendment package. 1 million operating budget 2015 for information technology.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, does anybody else have anything to put forward?
You should all have, Mr. Chair, copies of what I had proposed. There's 3 items. Signed council fees that I had requested that the entire amount be funded, and I see that it's supported by council president and you as chair of finance, at least a portion of assigned council fees to be funded. So I don't know what the effect will be if we don't fully fund what the request was and how that's going to be allocated by the court to the public, to the assigned council. I don't know how that will translate. But since these fees are so inadequate, I think it's important that we actually fund them as was requested. And that
Is that a motion?
is.
Is there a second? Okay. I'll start by answering your question, which is that the council has to approve by resolution any change in the assigned council fees. And so if we funded what's currently in the budget as opposed to the full amount, what the court would have to do is to prepare a new draft of the assigned council fees, which would be in between. And they in fact have prepared a first draft of that, but they're waiting to see what happens today, and then based on what happens today, they would send over to the law director what they're requesting the change in assigned council fees to be consistent with the amount of money that's provided for that purpose. and then the law department would prepare a resolution which would be introduced into council that we would have to approve. So that's what the process would be.
I understand it's going to come back to us to take a look at actually the impact of what we budget for. So I guess we have to wait. If this council's comfortable with the amendment sponsored by you and the president, I guess I'll go with that if that's what the council's comfortable with. And then when we come back with the actual reality of the assigned fees, then we can take a look again and see if that's going to be sufficient and adequate to move forward. So I can withdraw my motion.
Okay.
Does the second need to be withdrawn?
Second to be withdrawn? Yes. Okay. Okay, so the assigned council fees will stay as in the budget?
When it comes back to us, that's our chance really to see what the impact's going to be. And secondly, the public defender, I'm consistent with what your amendment is. So
In the package.
package. And the last request, I talked about this before. I don't know if we're going to realize the impact of the Senate Bill 337 as we sit here now, but I can assure you that there's going to be a big impact. And that's because the juveniles now are held in the juvenile detention center rather than being bound over to the court, the common pleas or the justice center. So that's going to shift some of this responsibility, a lot of it, to juvenile court, and there's no funding proper for that. And we heard from the court that there's potential for a lot of things to go wrong at that detention center. So I want council to consider that if you don't have enough information now, maybe as we go forward to see the full impact, because we haven't seen it yet. It hasn't really kicked in. But there's no question that this is going to cost the court a lot of their budget now to have to deal with this.
Do you want to make a motion, or do you want us to just carefully monitor it?
Motion on the juvenile court funding for the detention center.
Is there a second? Okay, the motion then, it's item 3 on Ms. Simon's list, is to increase the funding for the juvenile court by $587,000 per year to provide additional funding to meet anticipated requirements resulting from Senate Bill 337 on the housing of 18-year-olds at the detention center. Is there any discussion?
Yes,
Ms.
Mr. Chair.
Council President.
Mr. Chair, this is one of those unfunded mandates from the legislature. They tell you got to do something, and they don't tell you how to pay for it. We obviously are going to have to pay for this, but I'm inclined to withhold this item until we find out actually how much it's going to be costing us, because I think there may be enough leeway in the budget to already juvenile court to pay for this. I mean, if they need the money, they'll have to come back to us for it. But the facility is already there; they're already housing people, and I'm not sure how much more it's going to cost us to do this. So I'm willing to. I mean, I realize we may have to spend the money at some point, but I'm willing to wait on it.
Other discussion?
That's fine if we have to just do this incrementally, but if you recall that the discussion was that now the 18-year-olds have to be segregated from the younger kids, and it's just that it's not built to accommodate this flow of 18-year-olds, and the cost is definitely there, and they need separate guards, deputies. So we're going to start seeing a big increase in this, and it is because of the state unfunded mandate. And they're overflowing. I think they're way beyond capacity because of this holding. And maybe it's not every day, but I think we need to see how the average is going to shake out.
Would you be willing to withdraw the amendment on the promise of a finance and budget review at the end of the first quarter?
Yes. I withdraw that.
Okay, so we'll bring them in after the first quarter. We'll let them know we're going to do that and ask them to carefully monitor how this aspect is impacting their expenses, and we'll bring them in. Okay. Does anybody else have any items? Rogers.
I don't have an item, but I just wanted some clarity on the RTA public transportation budget item. asked the administration to prepare a report on, it was the council president's legislation on them making a plan. They had 60 days to get the plan. And I'm wondering if we heard back or, oh.
Khalil Seren, I work for you. We have been meeting with Public Works and the Department of Human Resources. Much of the plan is complete. It's not totally done yet, and that the reason for that is we're having some difficulty ensuring that the systems that they use in fiscal can achieve what the purpose of the legislation was for ride sharing and carpooling when it comes to the payroll deductions for parking. But the plan is almost complete in the very capable hands of Stan Kozaleski. And so we should be implementing this at the beginning of the year. The plan should be complete this month and then implemented as they at the beginning of the year for both the RTA, increased subsidy, and carpooling and ride sharing should come a bit after that once the systems are figured out. So the beginning of next year.
Is the $275,000 based on numbers that were come to as a result of that plan?
Yes, those numbers are based on an expected increase in the number of employees, county employees that will take advantage of the RTA subsidy, both as a result of just it being increased and also as a result of a new parking situation once we move to the new building. And also, so increased numbers of employees and an increased subsidy from current $3 per pass to $38 per pass subsidy.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just like to add, this really has a greater impact. Not only is it healthy because, you walk to the rapid or to the bus, but it also has this impact. Remember the people that came and complained about the bridge? I mean, if you're going to walk and take the bus, you probably, you might stop and buy some coffee or, patronize the stores. But one of the other problems that we have a horrendous parking problem in this area now because when the new hotel and the convention center, this is kind of the elephant in the room that nobody's done a lot of talking about. We really need some parking spaces in this area, and then of course we know it's moved to a new building. So this will free up spaces for people working at the courthouse and also here in the Justice Center. So I think it's a win-win. It's really an important process. I don't know where the administration were when we were talking about these parking problems, but this will help to alleviate this and also make healthier workers. And I've always said for ever since I've been elected official that, I take the rapid from time to time. I think every elected official should be forced to take public transportation because you really, you learn a whole other side of life when you take public transportation. And this is an important part of our job is to understand sort of how the other half lives. I took the megabus last couple of weeks ago. It was a very earthy experience, and I've taken the Cedar bus and the Quincy bus, and so it's very important that we get people using our public transportation system, and we do have a really good system, and this also helps RTA. And saves all those miles and pollution and gasoline and all those kinds of things.
Councilman Germana.
I sort of agree with the council president. However, I can tell you that RTA going east and west is a heck of a lot easier than those that are going north and south. East and west with the rapid and so on and so forth. I know a lot of people that go north to get the rapid to go east and west. So, asking every elected official. I'm certainly would be late for meetings, for sure.
Khalil also mentioned, and this is an important point too, that right now if you have two employees who are sharing a pass, and one is on vacation and use that pass, technically they're like in violation of the ordinance. So this is going to straighten that out too, to encourage people to share a parking pass, so that if you're coming to work together and you each chip in, it's one last parking spot that we need.
Okay, well, any further discussion? Not seeing any. I would like to ask the clerk to call the roll on the amendment package as amended with the three amendments: civil service testing, prosecutor's office, and information technology. A yes vote is to incorporate the package plus the three amendments into the budget resolution.
Calling the roll, Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Simon? Mr. Greenspan's not here. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
And Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so that incorporates, it is approved, and that incorporates those changes into the budget resolution. The track that we're on is that next Wednesday, or Tuesday, next Tuesday, December 3rd at 11 o'clock, we will resume. That's a combined session because we're also going to have to deal with the MMPI succession agreement, and that will start first. And after that's done, then we'll continue working on the budget resolution, with the focus then being on the Health and Human Services, and hoping to get a final resolution out of committee then to the full council for December 10th. I would just like to mention that we incorporated a number of significant initiatives. We're set on motion on a process for a long-term approach to pay equity with both the pay equity consultant and the civil service testing. We provided the funding for the RTA program and for the funding of the Consumer Affairs Department, and for dealing with assigned counsel fees, which has been neglected for 30 years, and for providing ongoing funding for information technology routine maintenance, and for ongoing funding for the council scholarship program. So I think that's a lot that we can feel very good about. Any other comments under miscellaneous business?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Mr. Miller for his diligence on this whole budget process. I'm not sure what you're going to do with your life after this budget process is done. You worked so hard on it, but thank you for your work.
Well, I thank you very much, recognizing that we're not done. Anything else?
Mr. Miller, please promise me you will not send out an email on Thanksgiving Day on one of these budget items, okay?
Don't promise.
I will promise that. Yes, there's other days to work with. Okay, and has anybody signed in for public comment unrelated to the agenda?
As signed in, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned, and we have 25 minutes to chill out.
We are going to have executive session, folks, so it should be.
Say hello to Greenspan.
Greenspan's not here.